Hi guys, good morning. So today, once again, my name is Lennise. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dropee.com. I thank you all for being here today to listen to my presentation. And for those of you who's online, I hope this is insightful for you too. Okay, so what is Dropee? Dropee, thank you. Oh, I missed this. So what is Dropee? Dropee is a B2B e-commerce marketplace where we help brand owners and distributors to digitize their supply chain ecosystem. Right? Today, as we talk about the shift of B2B businesses from the offline to the online world, I'm going to break it down into three segments. One, why are these businesses doing so? Number two, how are they doing so? And number three, what are the platforms and also the solutions out there that can actually help these brand owners, distributors, retailers to actually get into the digital revolution? So let's first start off with the why, the problem, right? Now, I think I would like to take a little step back of how Dropee was conceptualized, because this brings about how I have my first-hand experience in understanding the problems within the supply chain ecosystem. So Dropee was conceptualized by myself and my co-founder. Both of us actually were working in our family businesses who has operating from manufacturers all the way to retail businesses across the supply chain. Now myself, my family business does wholesaling and also manufacturing, whereas my co-founder, his family business is in distribution and retail. Now, despite the fact that our family business operates at different segments of the supply chain, it is pretty much evident that the key problems are the same. And what are they? So the B2B contribution into the Southeast Asia market comprised of four key areas, right? You have the manufacturers, you have the wholesale and distribution, you have the financial services, and you have the logistic partners. So in totality of these all four areas, it combines up to approximately 3.57 trillion US dollars into the Southeast Asia economy. But with that said, majority of you here thinks that, wow, this is pretty much, it's a huge number, right? But if you talk to a lot of these B2B businesses who covers in these four areas, they actually think that this number could be significantly better. And why? Because of three key problems. Number one, the current B2B supply chain ecosystem in Southeast Asia is extremely fragmented. A lot of these players, from your manufacturers all the way to retail outlets, they operate on a very silo basis. Communications from your manufacturers to your wholesalers, so on and so forth, is not there. They lack that transparency, lack that communication. And hence, because of this lack of integration, it creates a lot of inefficiencies as well, right? And because majority of the Southeast Asia economy is comprised of developing nations, that's why there's a huge presence of black economy. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with black economy, it just means that a lot of unregistered businesses are doing trades, are also providing services over there. Now, these unregistered businesses are actually taking a huge chunk of potential sales away from legitimate businesses, especially when it comes to industries that are highly taxed. So industries such as alcohol, such as tobacco, right? You have a lot of unregistered businesses that provides counterfeit goods, smugglers, and etc. The second problem that we have in the current supply chain ecosystem is a lack of transparency, mainly because there isn't any proper infrastructure to consolidate all these transactions on one single platform and provide these informations to all these stakeholders across the supply chain, right? And because of that, it creates a lot of leakages. Now, my own personal experience for these leakages was working together with one particular brand owner. This particular brand actually invests multi-million dollars every single year on trade promotions to entice more sales of their products across the region. Now, because of the lack of transparency, 80% of these trade promotion is pocketed by the middlemen, by the wholesalers, by the distributors, by the sales agents, which only leaves 20% for the retailers and consumers like you and me, right? The third problem is the inefficiencies that exist across the supply chain. at being a traditional business and traditional practices, which means that there's a lot of manual processes going on. Documentations are manual. Whenever a buyer actually places an order, it's still through pen and paper, right? Which brings in a lot of human errors and also pretty much inaccurate forecastings, which creates issues such as out-of-stock issues. Also, just a little bit of like segue here. For those of you who wants this slide, don't worry, this slide will be provided to you at the end of this section. You get to just fill up your details and I'll send it over to you via email. So don't worry about that. Right. So on the flip side, as a B2B buyer, you can see that 90% of the economy, Southeast Asia economy, is actually the MSMEs, right? Now, the MSMEs also have their own sets of problems, especially when it comes to B2B trading. Number one, majority of them goes unregistered. Majority of them are extremely traditional, right? Everything is done manually, pen and paper. They are the likes of your favorite chicken rice stall owner, your local community mom and pop store, right? Majority of them are always practicing manual documentation, which means that whenever they want to order, it's still pen and paper, sometimes even fax, which leads to the inaccessibility for a lot of financial opportunities. Because they're unregistered, because a lot of documentations are manual, no banks, no financial institutions, and even suppliers cannot provide them access to, say, things like credit terms, right, to microfinancings, to loans. This really restricts them as an SME to be able to grow and manage their cash flow properly, which creates a lot of distrust and a lot of friction between buyers and sellers. Because these buyers lack the cash flow to purchase in larger quantities, it means that the suppliers are servicing a smaller group, and they always put these smaller purchasers as secondary customers, right? They prioritize their larger customers. Their services aren't that great to them. Their lead time are longer. So how? How are these businesses trying to leverage on digital solutions to overcome the problems that I've mentioned? So companies like Dropee and also many others is formed to resolve this issue. The only way to resolve these problems across the supply chain is to only do one thing, is to create a digital supply chain network, right? A digital supply chain network where we bring businesses closer and create more meaningful B2B relationships. When I mean about meaningful business relationships, it means, number one, transparency. Number two, efficient processes, efficient operations. And number three, ensure that every single stakeholder across the supply chain is accountable for every single action that they do. So what is it, right? At Dropee, we've created two solutions in mind. One for the B2B buyer, the other for the B2B seller. For the B2B buyer, we've created a marketplace with the buyers in mind to ensure that they're able to source and procure directly from qualified vendors easily. For the B2B sellers, the brand owners and distributors, we provide them a solution that we call Nextera, that they're able to manage and monitor their whole supply chain ecosystem from their customers, their distributors, their sales agents, and also gain insights so that they can make data-driven business decisions. So let me talk into more details about these solutions. So the first solution, which is the marketplace for B2B buyers, as a buyer, you're able to, number one, get full transparency of what? Products, prices, informations, promotions, being able to compare from one supplier to another, right? A lot of these SMEs these days, they are unsure whether they are dealing with the right suppliers in mind, whether they are getting the right promotions. Through our platform, it is very easy for them to do so. Number two, it is very easy for them to order their products anytime, anywhere, because it is online and is mobile friendly, they do not have to be at the store to place their orders. They can do it on the go. And because it is online as well, a lot of their documents are digitized. And because it is digitized and stored in the cloud, we have partnered with financial institutions to provide them microfinancings to help them to operate and grow their business and take it to the next level. On the seller side, for Nextera, the solutions that we've created is a little bit more comprehensive, right? So for brand owners and principals, under Nextera Hub, they're able to monitor their whole supply chain efficiently. They're able to understand what's ongoing, what are their distributors' performance, what are the inventory stocks across each region, how are they like. Number 2, Nextera Commerce. So we also provide these brand owners and distributors a platform, a customized B2B platform, where they can manage their existing B2B customers and also base it off from regions, territorial pricings, etc. There's also Nextera Rep. This is for the sales rep in mind, right? The sales reps where for a lot of offline customers still prefers that face-to-face interactions. This feature actually helps your sales representatives to work more efficiently, to be able to understand their customers better, to be able to actually promote relevant products and gain more insights to whether these stocks are there or not. And last but not least, Nextera Tool. This feature is a growing feature, mainly because the main aim for this tool here is to streamline a lot of operational processes for brand owners and distributors, from your warehouse to your fulfillment to even your retail outlets. So we have integrated with core partners like warehouse management solutions, fulfillment management solutions, and even POS companies as well. So I'd like to wrap it up for today's session on a bonus tip, right? For those of you here today and online as well, who is interested to shift your B2B business from offline to online, there are 5 key questions that you just need to ask yourself. Number 1, does your B2B e-commerce solution cover your selling rule? What is your selling rule? Every B2B business has different selling rules, such as tiered pricings, minimum order quantities, multiple deliveries, right? So you gotta ensure that the solution that you have installed can support that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to manage all of these processes manually. That sort of defeats the purpose of going online. Number 2, is it user-friendly enough for your customers to place orders? Now, the number 1 problem that a lot of brands and distributors face whenever they move their business from offline to online is that my customers are not purchasing from my portal, my online portal. Why? It's because it is really hard for my customers to understand how to actually place the orders. It is not user-friendly enough. Now you have to understand that a lot of B2B buyers, they're very busy people. They are also not very tech-savvy at all. So having a complicated solution defeats the purpose, or actually creates barriers for them to adopt technologies and also place orders online. Number 3, does your B2B e-commerce solution work on mobile? Now, majority of the Southeast Asia economy are not tech-savvy, and also they do not own laptops, or they do not own computers at their workspace. But a lot of them have very high mobile penetration rate. So which means that is your B2B e-commerce portal mobile friendly enough for them to actually procure and place orders online? The 4th one, is your B2B e-commerce solution within budget, right? So there's a lot of debate, internal debates going on, whether do you want to build your own customized solution in-house, or whether you want to work together with a strong SaaS company to actually create your own B2B e-commerce portal, right? My key takeaway for those businesses who want to implement or to build your own internal B2B e-commerce portal is to ensure that it is future-proof, right? What do I mean by future-proofing it? It means that is does your business, would your way of selling to your customer change over a period of time? Right? If it does, that means in the future you have to create new features or upgrades to your solution. The question is, is your team experienced enough to do so? If you're using an outsourced partner, it could be extremely costly as well to do so. Right? On the flip side, if you use a strong SaaS player out there, they've already have built that solution with the B2B users in mind. And that also links to the last question that you should ask yourself. Will this B2B e-commerce solution stand the test of time? Right? So as the market and the technology industry is ever changing and grows on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis, is the solution able to adopt that and grow and maintain and stay relevant in the scene? So working together with a strong SaaS partner would help you do so, because it is, in order for them to stay competitive and relevant, they will be upgrading and also constantly iterating their product to suit the users, to suit the brands, the distributors, and the retail customers in mind. All right. With that said, for those of you who are interested to get a hold of my presentation, please feel free to either scan the QR code or fill up this, just log on to this link here and just fill up that form. All of these presentation decks will be sent to you by the end of today. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lennise. We have time for one question.
Sure.
So the one right at the top. Any differences between Dropee and Alibaba?
Yes. So Dropee, and that's a very common question, by the way. So Dropee, we actually do light bulk purchases, and we also facilitate the transactions and payments on our platform, right? Again, because our platform is facilitating buyers and sellers, a lot of these processes, especially when it comes to payments as well, goes through our platform to ensure that the sellers actually send and deliver the items accurately and appropriately over a course period of time.
I think we still have time for one more, so we'll answer the second question. Does Dropee provide drop shipping?
Well, drop shipping is a process, right? Long story short, we started Dropee with servicing the online e-commerce customers in mind. Over a period of time, we actually shifted to focus a lot more of the offline retail market. So to answer your question, because dropshipping is a process where we facilitate transactions and between buyers and sellers, right? Yes, we do. But purely, it's more for offline retail market.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of
All right.
Dropee, Lennise Ng. Thank you.